This is Michael Wilson. I am reading an article that states you can't solve the homeless crisis without housing. My premise is that you can't solve the homeless problem without Jesus. In Portland, Oregon, earlier this month, Mayor Ted Wheeler announced yet another push to bring down homelessness in the city. Portland would open 6 new shelters and would set a target of building 20,000 affordable housing units by, get it, the year 2033. In the meantime, the city would ban unsanctioned camping sites and instead open a series of alternative temporary shelter sites that would host 100 tents and could house up to 150 people. Like the publicly funded campsites that opened in the early years of the New Deal with cascading homelessness out west, these would include facilities such as laundries, restrooms, phone charging stations, 2 meals a day, trash collection. They would also bring in mental health service providers and medical providers that would help with referrals to drug treatment centers. Maybe that'll work, but it won't work without Jesus. And none of this will come cheap, and none of it will result in quick fixes. They'll have 150 units. There are more than 3,000 in Portland on the streets, unsheltered homeless, and it's seen cascading voter discontent over the crisis. Now, the issue of mass encampments is coming to a head across the American West. California, Oregon, Washington, you name it. Here's the problem. Since 2018, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit ruled that cities cannot limit public camping if they didn't have alternative shelter spaces to offer. So pretty much every city in the western states has been inundated with large-scale homeless encampments. It's creating a public health nightmare, and solutions, while they keep coming, do not seem to help. 1/3 of all homeless in the United States live in California, and 1/2 of all the unsheltered homeless. More generally, in 2019, it was calculated that in the US as a whole, for every 10,000 people, 6.3 were living on the streets. In the American West, by contrast, it was closer to 20 for every 10,000 people. And since then, the West housing crisis has only gotten worse. And why? Because we don't recognize the solution is Jesus. Portland's decision to build far more affordable housing by 2033 is better than nothing. And by 2033, it'll be 10 years from now, and California's multi-billion-dollar investment in housing interventions are necessary. But to date, they've been implemented in such a haphazard way that to many observers, they seem to be just throwing good money after bad, which is typical when government is your God. I believe Jesus wants us to do everything we can to help the poor and those who do not have a place to live. We're to care for them. We're to care for the hungry. We're to feed them. We're to care for the thirsty, give them something to drink. We're to care for the stranger, invite them into our home. We're to care for the naked and give them clothing. We're to care for the sick, care for those in prison, and we're to visit them. These are the clear expectations of Jesus we find in Matthew 25. And yet, Jesus himself one time acknowledged, the poor you always have with you. Fatalistic? No. Realistic? Yes. But Jesus calls on us to do what we can. Jesus is the answer to mental illness. Jesus is the answer to addictions. We must help monetarily where we can, but we must point others to the deliverance that Jesus offers. We know from the lives of many it works. Jesus is the solution.